time to bring in Rick White. He's the commissioner of the Atlantic League. He joins us via MSG Speed Dial, which is presented by Fios by Verizon. Rick, thanks so much for your time. Tell us how you guys are calling balls and strikes in your league.
Currently, we're using the tried and true method. We're using umpires who have done a terrific job for us over the years. But because of our new partnership with Major League Baseball, we're soon to move to TrackMan-based, radar-assisted balls and strikes.
How do you think this is going to work, not just with fans, who I think are probably more into it, because when we're watching games on TV, we get that opportunity to see the radar and obviously all the graphics they can use on national broadcasts. But for players, do you expect much of a reaction from players when it's less about the umpire and more about what the radar is telling you?
That's a great question. We have already started hearing from players, and without exception, players are very excited about where this is headed. They are excited, A, because we're going to call the true strike zone, and B, because it's going to be completely consistent from inning to inning and game to game. Umpires are human just like the rest of us, and occasionally their own subjectivity works its way into a strike zone. We're now moving back to a rule book strike zone, and we're calling that regardless of player. It gets adjusted and customized for that player's height and his stance. So I think we have a much better solution than before, and the players are delighted that we're now going to be consistent with ball and strike calls.
So, Rick, we have some video about how this might look and how things may be executed. If you can take a look and talk us through some of this.
Sure. The first thing we saw that looked like a flat screen TV is actually the radar system called TrackMan. And here you see one of our umpires, a gentleman named Calvin Baker, being fitted out with a transmitter receiver and an earpiece that he will wear during a game. This was part of a test out in Somerset where Calvin first was looking at live pitching behind a batting practice catcher without a batter and without game experience. Later that same day, Calvin was actually calling his own ball and strike zone, but we were testing the volume levels and the quality of the transmission between that transmitter receiver and the TrackMan unit.
How do you think the umpires are going to ultimately react to all of this if this is how things are going to work going forward?
All of our tests so far have involved roughly a dozen umpires, and it's all been around the communication devices we're using. We have one more set of tests that we're actually executing tomorrow. Once that's complete, I think we'll get a much broader universe. But with the dozen umpires we've checked so far with, one, there's a great deal of curiosity. Two, when they find out the system is not intended to replace them, but really to augment their judgment and to provide a much more true sense of the full strike zone. Universally, they've been very excited about it. There's a little confusion at first, as you might imagine, during a test. We still have to train all of our umpires up. But once that happens, I think that we're going to find a good deal of excitement over what's going on for a couple of reasons. Number one, our umpires want to be pioneers. And number two, they are committed to the game, and they want to be a part of a potential legacy that could reach Major League Baseball.
I think the key word you also used here is also consistency, not just in the strike zone, but in how the game is called. And there's other rules changes that the league will be going through in conjunction with Major League Baseball. And some of it, I mean, I think most of it has to do with pitching, including moving the pitching rubber back. How are pitchers reacting to that? Because in the middle of a season to do that, Rick, I wonder how just that part of it, it's going to change how a pitcher's throwing the baseball, correct?
It is. We've actually delayed that change until 2020. Okay. The reason for that is we wanted to get some time under our belt. We wanted to make sure the TrackMan system was operating properly, and we wanted to just gain some confidence with players. Right now, I would tell you that players have universally been accepting of all the changes we put in place. These initiatives, in some cases, are different than what they expected. But in virtually every case, they understand that they're a part of something a little bigger than the Atlantic League, with the potential to be, again, a legacy piece for the good of the game in the long term.
For more great videos from the MSG 150, check out right there. And remember, our show is on Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10:30 p.m. on MSG Network and MSG Go.